and stand by.
Let's please continue on.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
All the networks! All the networks!
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
All the networks!
They say, that's amazing. How did you do that? That's amazing. How did you do that? I do it because I have like a good memory, because I'm cognitively there.
It's a verbal ink blot test.
China now.
What is going on here?
We won't talk about toilets. It's a very unpleasant experience.
You know, dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
If my grandmother had wheels instead of legs,
Oranges.
she would be a bicycle.
God bless the United States. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome everybody. We are standing by for, where are my graphics? My graphics? Hold on a second here. Oh, there they are. Okay, good. We are standing by for White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who will be delivering a press briefing really, really soon. And it's so great to have some time with you guys because there are so many things going on and to talk about. Watching that introductory video and seeing last year's garden and seeing questions. I do have a 2021 garden, and there are no cukes or zooks. I will not be exposing my zooks or cukes this year because I have none. But I have a 2021 garden, and I don't know, maybe would I do a tour video? I guess I would, yeah. Maybe if we get to 100 website members, I will film a garden tour. Here's what I have in my 2021 garden. I have yellow and red tomatoes. Well, no, let me go backwards. First of all, as far as perennial elements that just come back on their own, my strawberry plant has come back really strongly. It is, last year I got 6 strawberries. And as you remember, I ate one with a single mint leaf and made a whole video out of it. But the strawberry plant, I expect it to go crazy this year. 2 types of oregano are back, and my thyme is already bigger than, Bob Ross's hair. I've already had to trim it. So really, really strong. And then mint. I have an entire mint pot, and it is going bananas already. Okay, so that's that. New plantings. Japanese eggplant I'm going to try to grow. I got green peas, and they're throwing shoots out, and I've already given them a trellis. I have 2 tomato types, an heirloom yellow grape tomato. It's like I wanted the most pretentious possible tomato, and an heirloom grape yellow tomato was basically it. And I said to the tomatoes, "Sir, this is where you will be growing." So I've got yellow and red tomatoes. Some various lettuce things. I got romaine. I have 4 romaine plants, and I have some. I guess they called it gourmet lettuces, and I was like, that sounds completely delusionally pretentious. So I'm gonna get that. 3 types of peppers. I've got a sweet banana pepper, a jalapeno, and a, what was the third kind? Like a mini red bell pepper. Oh, for basil, you know, everybody's always doing Italian basil. It's just like you just start dumping basil everywhere, and it's, you know, you get it, and it's green, and everybody knows Italian basil. I instead have decided this year to do purple basil. It's basically Italian basil, just purple and a little bit less fragrant. It's the same thing. It just looks cool. Purple basil. And I got Thai basil for some of my Asian recipes, which is fantastic. And then I think that's mostly, oh, I got cilantro. I'm also propagating it. So I'm trying to get a very thick cilantro bush, essentially. And then what else? I really think that that's it. I mean, that's a lot of stuff already. Yeah, but massive basil dumps, different types of basil. So that's all going on, okay? If we get to 100 members, I will do a garden tour, and we are already at Phoenix Ashes has gifted 5. Chief Boris signed up. Amaronic signed up as 7. Megawatt is 8. Montion is 9. Kimioyo is 10. So we're already at 10. So that may happen. That may happen. Oh, and sorry, on joinpacman.com, Eric Wiegand has signed up and is number 11. So we may actually get that garden tour coming up really soon. Okay, I'm going to jump right into substance because I have so much of it. Hella Cool Guy says first donation means I'm the best. Jacob says first record of the stream, best introduction in history. And Alex Kepke asks if I have a charcoal or a gas grill. I have gas right now. Just, you know, if I want to quickly grill on a weeknight, I don't want to spend 45 minutes getting my coals stoked, right? So I'm going gas right now. All right, we have a horrible, oh, by the way, new meme format. This is really good. This appeared on the subreddit yesterday. Sometimes I'll open a story by saying, just as we've been predicting for weeks, and this is me giving myself an award for when I make an obvious prediction on the show. And so this is good. I am opening this to whoever wants to participate. Send in your images. Just change the text at the top. This is widely available on our subreddit, but this is really good. What's funny is when I look at this, these are so not my hands. Like, you know, I have no wedding ring, and it just, nothing about this hand. It's like an alien hand. It's like when you wake up at night and you have a pinched nerve and you've lost feeling in your arm, and it feels like someone else's arm. That is what I see when I look at this. Oh, are those Obama's hands? That makes it even funnier. Yeah. Maybe this is from Obama. That actually makes it hilarious. Then those definitely are not my hands, obviously. Okay, so this is available on the subreddit, and you can take advantage of that. Okay, look, we need people to get vaccinated right now. We are on the precipice of hopefully going down to almost zero from the standpoint of cases. Look at what happened when Israel vaccinated people. Look at that. Look at that. 70 cases. Look at what happened when the population got vaccinated. So we need to do it, but vaccinations are declining. As you can see, vaccinations peaked on average almost 3 weeks ago. And then since they've just been declining. Why is this happening? Well, the people that really wanted the vaccine increasingly have gotten it, or at least their first dose. We now are dealing with anti-vaxxers. And sadly, Tucker Carlson is continuing to spread anti-vax propaganda. This is from last night. Let's take a look.
That does not mean that they are dangerous, and we are not claiming the coronavirus vaccines are dangerous. But we are telling the truth.
So this is already pretty sophisticated propaganda, right? He starts with, we're not saying they are dangerous, but, and then in the back it says mandatory vaccinations, which there are none. There's no mandatory vaccinations. So it's already sort of sophisticated propaganda. I mean, listen, he's saying that he's not saying that the vaccines are bad. Okay, here we go.
Which is, there are unresolved concerns about their long-term effects on some people, including their effects on female fertility. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is true. It's an honest question, what's the long-term effect, that no one so far has been able to answer.
Now remember, with this long-term effect stuff, You can always say, what if the effects show up just outside of the time period that something has been tested? Let me give you an example. The polio vaccine has been around, I don't know how long it's been, let's call it 70 years. I don't know, 60 years. You could always say, we don't yet know the effects of the polio vaccine starting after 61 years. We just don't know. I'm not saying anything bad happens. We just do not know at year 61, what does the polio vaccine do? You can always say that. It's not a resolvable issue. But here now he's going to make some specific claims about the fertility thing. And it's not even really about fertility, but pay close attention.
And it's not simply being asked by partisans, it's being asked by practicing physicians. Catherine Lee, for example, is a research fellow in the Division of Public Health Sciences at Washington University in St. Louis. Lee doesn't seem like a partisan Republican or a QAnon adherent or a crank. She gladly took the coronavirus vaccine. She seems to support the coronavirus vaccine strongly. But then in herself, she noticed unexpected effects on her menstrual cycle. Quote, "It wasn't a symptom that was on the list," Lee said. "I expected that my arm would be sore or that I might have a fever or headache, but this just wasn't on the list." Kate Clancy, another scientist who studies female fertility at the University of Illinois.
Okay, so let's stop it. This quote from Catherine Lee is an accurate quote. And there have been reports of heavy or irregular menstrual cycles in the immediate aftermath of COVID vaccines. They are anecdotal, but when you talk about stressing the immune system, which is what a vaccine is supposed to do, female menstrual cycles are very sensitive to that. He's talking about fertility, even though he's quoting someone about menstrual cycle changes. And what he's not telling you is if you go to the full quote by Catherine Lee, there's an article in The Verge, find the quote. She says, none of this would affect fertility. There's no belief, there's no assertion that any of this would affect fertility. So it's a partial quote. Fertility and menstruation are two different things. So I'm not going to go through the full thing here, but this is just to give you a sense of how deceptive this stuff is. And then when you go to the end, by the way, then something that says no questions allowed pops up, which is like, who's not being allowed to ask questions?
For the vaccines never tested for the effects on the female menstrual cycle or for fertility or on pregnant women.
By the way, I'd be shocked if there's any premenopausal women, even in Tucker Carlson's audience. That's a different question, but that's more of a demographic issue.
So maybe the symptoms amount to nothing. That's often the case. Maybe they amount to something. We don't know. The fact is, we can't say what the long-term effects of this vaccine will be on women, including pregnant women. Honest people admit this. Every scientist knows it.
So again, we can't say, well, a lot of these issues have been studied. mRNA has been studied. Adenovirus vaccines have been studied. We actually do. But then they just go back to, we just can't say. We also can't say what is the effect of the vaccine long term. I'm talking, after 10 years on a tennis backhand. We just don't know. The vaccine may be perfectly safe and fine for a tennis backhand. It may not. We just don't know because it's not been 10 years. What is the 10-year effect on tennis backhands? And then the no questions allowed up. The questions are all being asked. They've mostly all been answered as well. So anyway, the problem is that this is the problem, right? That vaccination is declining. And this is not the time when we want vaccination to be declining. So that's that. That's the latest from Tucker Carlson. Okay. I do want to say thank you to Khan Kriha, who has signed up on my website, joinpacman.com. I also want to say thank you to Weatherboxer, who just gifted 5 subs on Twitch. Extremely exciting. Also, huge thank you to Snuggles, ODW, and Trish the Dish for their continued support via Twitch as well. We're standing by for Jen Psaki, but so many things to talk about between now and then. A few super chats, okay? Frumpus says, largest South American Ashkenazi Jewish YouTube stream on May 4th, 2021. Historic moment breaking multiple records. That's right. If you are in the audience right now, and I hope people are prepared for with great power comes great responsibility. You are watching right now the biggest May 4th, 2021 stream hosted by a left-handed Argentinian Jew with American citizenship. In that category, this is the most watched live stream of the day in news and politics on YouTube. All right. That is really an accomplishment that somebody should get an award for. Peter wants to know, what is the girth of my biceps? I don't know. I've never measured them. I know my head size is like off the charts. 5 head is not a metaphor when it comes to me. It is a certainty. Kyle says, David, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin emissions? They can be zero in the sense that electricity can be generated renewably. So I don't have any particular thoughts on that are unique. No coverage of recent Israeli apartheid crimes. Come on, guys. Come on. Invest in humans. David, we are long-term fans from New York, Germany. We have launched a crowdfund to build an app to solve climate change. Would appreciate a shout out. GoFundMe, invest in humans. Okay, not an endorsement, but if people are interested, I don't know anything about it, but certainly people can investigate that, and that would be a delightful thing to do. Do I have any Twitch unban requests? Let's see. Oh, I do. Okay, hold on. Here's my gavel. We do have an unban request. User Whistling Tomb showed up here on a recent live stream. Their first message was all caps, F Biden, Trump 2024. They apparently did not get the reaction they wanted. So then they said Trump 2024, also in all caps. They were then banned, which was the right decision. And their unban request is, can I ask why? So this to me feels more like a timeout ban. Trump 2020, it's like, that seems more troll. Trump 2024, okay, maybe you want Trump, maybe Trump 2024. I'm actually okay with an unban on this one, and I will adjudicate that right now. But we're going to keep a very close eye on them. I think it was the right decision as a temporary timeout. But, you know, if they want to come back and participate meaningfully, then I'm willing to allow them back in. That is the only unban request I have. Oh, okay. I have a bunch of different voicemails to play. And let's see where to even start. So I have a bunch of different things. So let me get this first one out of the way. I know that we have a system now where we go to the audience about whether to play Troy York voicemails, and it's actually been over a month where I've not even gone to the audience because the Troy York voicemails are so boring and just ridiculous, and I don't even want to subject you to that. But I'm making an executive decision. I got a Troy York voicemail, and he sounds completely wasted. This was left at like 3 a.m. He has never sounded this drunk. So merely for medical value, this is a warning to any children. Do not, alcoholism is a serious issue, and we're not ridiculing that. This is the worst Troy York has ever sounded. It's really short. We're just going to take a quick listen. This is bad.
Oh, yeah, I'm calling David Packman. I'm referring to your video about the world.
He's referring to my video.
Says that Trump, now that Trump is gone, the USA is popular again. And, I think the world likes not having Trump because then they can take advantage of America again.
Yeah, so it is sad, and he's just absolutely wasted. So we're going to move off of that. But I'm just letting you guys know the Troy York stuff is continuing, even though he's been off air for 5 weeks. Okay, I want to say thank you to Dirtnap, Beaver Smart, Napa Skip Dog, for the Twitch subs, numbers 14, 15, and 16. This is also a perfect day to grab a membership on my website, joinpacman.com. As I promised, if we get this bar to 100, I will go out and film the 2021 garden tour, which is an incredible tour. An incredible tour. Okay, next. Many of you have been asking what happened to the guy that would call in and refer to me as Prickless. He has been MIA for a really long time. He has called in. Let's listen to... Oh, so let me delete these as I go. Troy York, Wasted, we've done. Here is Prickless guy by popular demand.
Hey, Prickless, it's me. People in glass houses shouldn't throw bricks. At least Trump could get up the steps of an airplane. He didn't fall down 3 times, and at least he knows where he is.
Yeah, Trump could get up. He couldn't get down a ramp, though.
Your boy, Lion Biden, the hemorrhoid, doesn't even know where he is. He said, "Oh, I'm in Vermont." He's in New Hampshire. But why isn't he able to go up and down the steps of a plane without falling 3 times? You're an idiot, and so is he.
And then stays on for a while, unable to hang up the phone. All right, and eventually was able to hang up the phone. So that's by popular demand. That's Prickless guy. We do have a new sponsor. They are pretty aggressive undies, and they are called Sheaths. And clearly talking about sheaths has raised questions about swords to continue the kind of double entendres. But here's a voicemail caller weighing in, I guess, about underpants.
Hi, David.
David.
I heard that you're going to have a really good show today, so I'm looking forward to that show. I saw that you have new advertisements for underpants now. They prevent your crotch from getting too sweaty or chafing or anything like that.
Hey, listen, he's understanding the product. That's great.
So I'm hoping to see during your show, kind of similar to the wine commercial where you're just looking at different thing, or the Steady Stratford shirts commercial where you're looking at like wine bottles, you're like reading a book, doing various things. I'm hoping to see that, but with you wearing those underpants. I'm not sure if they're going to fit for me. So to see that modeled and to see if, can I read a book wearing them? Can I look at a wine label? I'm just not sure about that. So.
Yep. No, I will give you a full rundown of everything that can be done with the sheath boxers for sure. It's an extensive list. Okay, so we've got that. You know, this funny thing has actually been happening with the advertisements where the advertisements they've become almost like part of the entertainment of the show, where it's like, what brand are we advertising today? And what ridiculous B-roll do we have of me, you know, pouring a drink or reading a book or what? People write to me, not a lot, but I do, like 2 to 3% of the emails we get are people reacting to the hilarity of the ads, which I think is funny. I think that's a great thing. Okay, we heard from the Eggman, and the Eggman, I don't know if you guys remember last week, there was a call where someone called in from Belgium and I asked them about their favorite sauces for fries. And the Eggman, I guess I had asked that same caller the same question like a year ago. I had no memory of it, I admit it. And the Eggman said he didn't even mind hearing it a second time. Listen to this. This is really funny.
Hey, Dave. Look, I'm not like that other caller that gets upset when you ask the guy from Antwerp what kind of French fry sauce he likes on his French fries multiple times, because we all remember he liked the same sauce last time that he called. I don't.
Yeah, I have no memory of that. I mean, it sounds like something I would ask, but it's funny. I have absolutely no memory that I had the exact conversation with the same Belgian caller.
Bother me. I like the questions, but Dave, when a young American caller calls you and you hear background noise and he says it's his mom's TV, how can you not ask, what is your mom watching on TV?
That's fair. The Eggman is actually a really good producer. It would have been a great and obvious question to say, what is your mom watching in the background? I just missed it. I admit I missed it, the opportunity.
Like, that's the most obvious question in the world. More obvious a question to your American listeners than what kind of sauce dude puts on his French fries, which still is interesting, by the way. I'm not putting that down. So I just wanted to know what that kid's mom was watching on TV. Was it like Judge Judy or CSI or, Fox News. It would have interested me greatly to hear that. Shalom, brother.
All right. Shalom to the Eggman. And he's making good points. I certainly could not argue with anything that he says there. I want to say a big thank you to Barbara Degolado, who has just signed up at joinpacman.com. I also want to say thank you to Chris McLafferty for the website sign up. Those are new members 17 and 18. And then over on Twitch, Jarlaxi has signed up via Twitch and is new member number 19. Very much appreciate that. Okay. And then the last thing I have for you from voicemails is, sorry, hold on a second. We've got to ban someone here. Block, there it is. Sorry, just dropping some ban hammers. Apologize. Okay, last voicemail thing. Let's just keep an eye on what's going on here. Okay, still standing by for Jen Psaki. Here's a new anti-vax caller. Okay, they left a series of voicemails, and this is really concerning. It's concerning because of this, which we were talking about before. Reduced vaccine doses. Fewer and fewer people getting vaccinated merely because they don't want to. Vaccines are available. Okay? New anti-vax caller. Listen to this.
Yeah, David. It's Eric from Mass. Again, it seems like either you have the inability or don't want to go get the real information. So I'm going to
information.
Go to nojabforme.info. That's no.
Okay, well, hold on. The website is nojabforme.info. Okay. It's an insane website. It's just anti-vax trash. They do this thing where vaccines is in quotation marks. It's a crazy website. So he wants me to look at this website. No jab for me. Let's continue.
Nojabforme.info. Get yourself some real information and read.
I'm lacking information.
That says there, and maybe you're going to stop your little videos that are...
Right. Yeah. This website will make it so I never do vaccine videos again. Mm-hmm. That's an idea.
Yeah, David.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
.info. That's no jab. And read what that says there, and maybe you're going to stop your little videos that are misleading and telling people to do something they shouldn't be doing. I suggest you check that website. It has a lot of information. It has the real information. And I think your viewers would be very interested in it. And I'm interested to see if you put it up on your little videos because...
Well, I did, yeah. And I don't know that nojabforme.info is going to be interesting to anybody in my audience.
Yeah, hey, David, it's Eric again from Maps. I just wanted to elaborate a little on nojabforme.info and just say it's going to be kind of hard for you to go against it because you're on your little videos saying believe all doctors, and
I don't know that I've ever used that phrase on my show. Believe all doctors is not a phrase I've used.
Nojabforme.info was done by all doctors.
I don't know anything about that website. I got a really funny, let me see if I can find this. Hold on. Would it be under general audience emails or is it under hate mail? I don't know. Vaccine doctor. Let me see here. There was a really funny one I got. So I got an email from someone saying, David, you should really be listening to what medical doctors are saying about vaccines. Here is a link to such a website. And I click onto it and it's an anti-vax website and it is written by a guy who is named Dr. something. But when you look, he's like a doctor of like American literature. So I wrote back to the woman and I said, I agree with you. We should be listening to the medical doctors. The website you sent me is a guy who's an expert in literature. I mean, he has a PhD, but it's not a medical doctor. And then she just wrote back with something totally different about Fauci this or Fauci that. There's no talking sense with these people. Here's a little more of this.
Believe all doctors. You've said it ad nauseum.
I mean, listen, if we're going to just believe all doctors, I'll listen to Jill Biden about vaccines, One more.
Yeah, it's Eric from Mass. Calling again because I don't understand why you would not put nojabforme.info on your site to let your
We put it up. I can look at what's happening in the chat. People are not impressed.
listeners know the dangers of the experimental treatment. It's not a vaccine, and it's not FDA approved. Your boy Fauci is lying. You can look that up. Doctors say that, and you said trust all doctors. And you also said you're going to have a social psychologist on. I really think you should, because you're so deep in lies, you need one.
I don't, so they don't even seem to know what a social psychologist is. So, wow, that's really sad. So education is in a deep, deep crisis in the United States. So that's that. That's voicemails for today. That's basically the, just that's what it is. All right. Big thank you to Drew English. Drew English just grabbed a website membership at joinpacman.com. We do have an unpublished secret but extremely exciting coupon code. That code is immoral21. You can use that code to get a discount so big it's not moral. Based on Judeo-Christian philosophy, of course. Immoral21. I also want to say thank you to Ozzy V, Megan Solo, Calistines, Tactopus, Pilot Dog for signing up via Twitch, putting us at 25. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Let's do some super chats. I've fallen very far behind. Stephen B says Troy York needs a 72-hour psych hold. I'm worried. Septic Avenger says, are you concerned in the future the U.S. might end up in a situation similar to Argentina because of our ever-increasing spending and debt? No, that you would only come to that conclusion with what at this point I think is a not very accurate understanding of debt and deficit. For Profit says, why is Israeli apartheid funny? I have dozens of clips about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on my YouTube channel. You can find my thoughts there. Ryan says, Biden said he would pull troops from Afghanistan. Do you believe he would be as likely to do regime change in other countries like Obama and Bush did? No. And by the way, speaking of that, more and more people seem, including the revolutionary left, seem to be convinced that Joe Biden is going to war with China or Russia. I think there is almost no chance in hell that Joe Biden goes to war with China nor Russia. I just don't no. If you gave me even odds, I would vote no on that very, very easily and clearly. Ice Wallow says, chat, chill out. David does U.S. politics, not Israel. And then another user says, Human Rights Watch declared apartheid. So people arguing with each other about Israel. Asterian says, about 10 days after my first Moderna shot, I decimated a tough team in my league tennis match. I'd argue they snuck in performance-enhancing microchips. That seems plausible. Absolutely. Susk says, recent to Stephen Michael Davis video on you, please. I don't know what that means. Stephen Michael Davis, David Pacman. What is that? Let's see. February. David Pacman ratioed by delusional progressives. I don't know what this is about. This is also pretty old. All right, I'll bite. Let's hope these are not famous last words.
I'm really worried about a faction of my audience. And quite frankly, I'm really worried about the left. And this is not concern trolling. I'm worried because of the response to a video that I did yesterday explaining some unfortunate realities about Medicare for all.
A while back, professional gamer Ninja tweeted, "I'll never understand how college and NFL football teams allow kickers that just miss kicks. I feel like there has to be pools of kickers in the USA that won't miss simple kicks, or snappers that won't mess the snaps. I don't know, man. It seems so silly. Would love opinions on this." I'm not a gamer, but this was not the first I had heard of Ninja.
Wow, this is a 20-minute video, so this is... Let's see if there's any part that's actually about me. I don't think my audience cares about a lot of this stuff. Let's see. Scrolling through here. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, here's more about me. Let's see right after me. Maybe there's like a commentary here.
We'll make it not happen politically.
How did his audience take this? Well, the ratio on the video is pretty brutal. 2.1k likes to 1.8k dislikes. Highly unusual for a popular channel like David's. Also, after this video, a number of people in the progressive sphere predictably denounced him as a sellout. To bring this video back to the beginning, this is a consequence of thinking things are easy when they're not. Most online progressives have bought the premise that politics is completely simple.
Politics is an easy game that we make difficult. All those overpaid Democratic strategists in Washington, D.C., they're useless. So we have the answers. Now it's just time to implement them and fight for them and be unapologetic on that front. And if you do that, the Republicans will be in a permanent minority from now until the end of time.
When problems are simple, so are the solutions. This is why people like Cenk Uygur think that fighting is all we're lacking. If only the right people said the right combination of words in front of the right audience, the progressive agenda would be realized. They think that something is easy because they operate on the outside and they don't actually know what they're talking about. Consider what Kyle Kulinski said in response to David Pakman.
So if Bernie Sanders is in the White House, then what? Bernie Sanders goes and gives a national
This is in
address
response
on
to
TV,
me?
and he says, from the Oval Office, "My friends, we are faced with an obstructionist Congress that's bought off by the for-profit health insurance companies and by Big Pharma."
How does this relate to anything I said? I don't even know what's going on. I'm kind of over it. All right, so I guess there's a 21-minute video that's 3 months old that I missed, but I think I'm tapping out. Interesting. I mean, you know, what you have to understand is I get Google alerts like 10 times a day of videos like that, and I just can't, you know, it's impossible to keep up with all of them, unfortunately, as much as I would love to, obviously. Okay, we're standing by for Jen Psaki. Oh, I do have one more unban request. A user named Labanti Tech created their account today. They showed up in my stream. They tried to paste 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 links in a row, all of which were blocked by Twitch. They then said, "F you, David Pakman." They then said, "F you, David Pakman, F you, David Pakman, F you, David Pakman, F you, David..." Blah, 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 blah. They were banned, and their unban request is 3 more YouTube links. So just out of curiosity, I won't put this up on screen. I'm going to see what they're linking me to. A video of my own logo. That's weird. I'm going to just have to deny this. All right. That one is denied. Just a perma ban. I actually think this person that it's ban evasion, and that individual has already evaded bans before. Like that username, I believe, is a ban evasion, if I'm being clear. Okay. So that's that. I want to say thank you to Alvin Yakitori. Alvin just signed up at joinpacman.com using the coupon code immoral21, if you can imagine that, which is wild. Super chats coming in. White Death wants to know, do I think there's a disconnect between Western progressives and those in the developing world? Does the Leninist left contribute to this? I'm not able to answer that because I'd need to know what disconnect you believe there is. I mean, I think there's the assumption that so-called Western progressives are less progressive than in some other places. I reject the idea that the Leninist left is actually progressive. I believe they are really authoritarian fundamentally. But I'd need a little more detail. Mini Painting Studio has a gardening question. Do I have pest issues, having trouble with grasshoppers in OKC? Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I do have issues, but I certainly don't know how to solve them. Honestly, when I have a gardening issue, you know who I go to? I go to Kevin from Epic Gardening. We are mutual fans of our respective channels, and his channel crushes mine. I'm not even pretending to be in the same league as Epic Gardening. But like I recently had an issue with my mint, and I sent a message to Kevin, and that's who I'm going to. I would check out his channel. Fool in the Rain says, David, you skipped my super chat. Fool in the Rain. Suggestion, put a timestamp on interviews on YouTube of where you left off on the podcast. That's a nice idea. All right, we'll look into that. That's not bad. What else do we have? Ferret Queen says, wedding planning stress and our cars got broken into and robbed Saturday. Oh no. I don't drink, so we're scheduling an appointment at a farm that for $20 they let you play with their baby goats. That seems nice from a mental health standpoint. That sounds good. Really sorry to hear that, though. I mean, that sounds really bad. What else? Oh, yeah. I cover this on the broadcast show today, but you might find this interesting. Hold on a second. What's going on? Fox News did a segment basically saying Joe Biden's economy might be too good. This is what they're now going with. The economy is booming. Joe Biden might be behaving dangerously. These people are unbelievable. Look at this.
We are seeing a booming American economy, whether it's the jobs market, the Dow, as you see on your screen there, continues to hit record highs. You've got wages moving higher. So why is it that this administration wants to spend all this money when it seems things are getting better?
Oh, that is just something else. We have to really worry about Joe Biden as a president here. The economy's booming. Jobs are coming back. Wages are up. Real estate is doing well. It's so hot. And yet Joe Biden is still doing stuff. Is the economy getting dangerously good under Democrat socialist Joe Biden? Here's Mike Braun's reaction.
Well, that's a good question, because
really good question.
The real consequences will be felt probably post 2022. And they're calculating all this expertly, in my mind, politically.
We are seeing
these people are unbelievable. It is it must be bad. What's going on must be bad. Even if it's booming, clearly someone in the Democratic Party is doing something wrong. This is the worst time to do anything. That's the I love the headline. Is Joe Biden making the economy too good? The latest incisive commentary from Fox News, as you can very clearly imagine there. Geshmake says you skipped my super chat. All right, let's see. Oh, sorry. With every vaccine, including prescriptions, there are always people who experience symptoms not mentioned in the literature. Carlson and others are doing nothing but continuing the misinformation. Shameful. Well, absolutely. 100%. You are completely right, Geshmake. Patrick says your channel does have more subscribers than Epic Gardening. Oh, is that right? That's interesting. Let's see. Epic Gardening YouTube. Let's see what's going on over on Epic Gardening. This is like, people ask me what I watch. People are like, oh, did you see the latest Jimmy Dore video or Toolchi's recent statements? And it's like, no, I didn't, because I tend to watch stuff like this. Let's see. Oh, I'm growing peas right now in my garden. Let's see what tips we have here.
Today we're going to learn how to grow a classic spring crop, and that would be peas.
I've got these.
Here from Epic Gardening, where we're growing greener thumbs. Let's go. Peas are a quintessential spring crop, one of the easiest and most tasty and pleasurable things.
I can still probably screw it up, but I'm trying right now.
Grow in spring. So in today's video, I'm going to go through the major categories of peas, because there are a couple different types that you want to consider. So,
you know, I feel like I'm thinking back to the, I don't know if you guys saw the debate between Stephen, Kenneth, Destiny, Bunnell II, and my former economics professor, Richard Wolff, where the entire interview was mostly them defining things that are not socialism and things that are not capitalism. I feel like to frame this video properly, Kevin should really give us a list of 100 or so vegetables that are not peas, because otherwise I wouldn't even know how to interpret this video. It's like, okay, you're talking about peas, but give me the list of things that are not peas so we all have like a good framework from which to start. Okay, let's continue.
Some sowing and planting recommendations, of course, some care and trellising. And at the end of the video, I will show you my favorite way to eat peas. Spoiler alert, it really doesn't have anything to do with going in the kitchen. So cultivate that like button and I will bless you with 55 more pea pods than you would have had this season. And let's get into the video.
I need some
Peas
graphics
are
like
one of
that.
the oldest cultivated crops in the world, and they're a staple in many areas of the world, including here. I mean,
all right, let's get to the growing. Hold on, here we go.
Fantastic. I know a lot of my British gardeners love to grow
Varieties.
peas, and they have.
I want to get to the
The thing
transplanting.
that's nice about peas is that they can tolerate cold, even light
Here we go.
as normal. So if you do opt to start your seeds indoors for spacing or timing reasons, then you just pop them out and transplant them in and you're totally good to go. But if you're like many gardeners, including myself, you may just want to make your life a little bit easier. Take your pea seeds and then just direct sow them in the bed. That's what we did right here on this little trellis. And as far as spacing goes, you actually can be quite aggressive with this. You can put, I mean, I think we put somewhere around 40.
They came to me, they said, sir, plant us closer together.
Just right here. So you can plant them anywhere from 1 to 3 inches apart. You could plant them right next to each other. You could have more than one pea plant coming out of the same hole. As long as you don't go absolutely overkill, they're quite forgiving, because you got to think about it. They're actually putting a lot of their growth.
Anyway, I don't expect, I have like one pea plant, you know, this looks like it, that's gotta be a bunch of seeds. But anyway, this is like, if you're wondering what I'm doing at 9 p.m. at night, it's watching videos like that. Okay, good. Let's see what else we have here. Even some peas are not true peas. Yes, there's a lot of counterfeit vegetables. Hey, David, really enjoy your channel. Was wondering, what's your dog's name? And do you know what breed he is? I don't have a dog. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't have a dog. You can react to Stephen Michael Davis's video on corporate agenda. No, I'm good. All we are saying is give peas a chance. Fox News, the economy is good enough. No need to further improve the country whatsoever. Okay. Jamal says, hey, homie, is it fair to use India in a debate as an example to what the U.S. would be like if we actually followed Trump's anti-COVID mask vax people ideas? Is it a false equivalency? And if so, why? Yeah, it's not a perfect. I mean, India's population is like four times bigger than the United States. And there's a different level of infrastructure, different level of income. I mean, I don't think it's a very good analogy, but certainly we could say that if governors didn't take COVID more seriously, it would have been absolutely terrible, even worse than it has been. Have you read much on the pending financial crisis related to commercial mortgage-backed securities? Ryan Grimm on The Intercept has a good piece on it. I haven't. Tell me, chat, if I'm right about this. My instinct would be that because of COVID, there are a lot of people abandoning their leases, and this would make people in the business of subleasing, it would put them in a very dangerous and precarious situation, in the sense that they may have a 20-year lease somewhere and all of their subtenants or many of their subtenants are bailing because of work from home, and that there are loans out, commercial mortgage loans, that are on properties increasingly worth less as people are working from home. That would be like my guess. Nobody knows. Okay. All right. Very good. Big thank you to Nug Wrangler for 20 months subscribed with Twitch Prime. Also, thank you to Andre Bavaria, GeoVenture, Jay Tandaway, as well as, oh no, that's it. Okay, 4, putting us at 30. From what I've read, 90% of Amazon Prime members never gift their free Twitch membership to anybody. That is a tragic number. Tragic number. Thoughts on predictions on how Hannity's conversation with Caitlyn Jenner will go? No, but I am very interested in seeing that. I think I might have seen something about, let me see here. Hannity Jenner. I thought I saw a preview of that. Let me see here. Oh, maybe not. Does anybody know when that is? Caitlyn Jenner interview. Let's see here. I am fascinated by it. Caitlyn Jenner sit down with Hannity will be live event in Malibu. Fox host Hannity heading to Malibu this week for Caitlyn Jenner's first TV appearance. She will run in the California recall. Sources say Hannity's event will be a town hall style before a live audience. Oh, I would cover that live. That seems compelling. It doesn't say when it is, though. If anybody can find out when that's going to be, email me. I would absolutely love to cover that. That seems like it would be fascinating. Whoa. Looks like we're about to start here. That would be an absolutely fascinating thing to cover. Thanks to the judge as well as SX Score, only won me for signing up via Twitch. 31, 32, and 33. Is that like is someone reporting live from the press briefing room? Is that what's going on? Sounds like actually Caitlin Collins from CNN. Hanging from Gallows has just signed up via Twitch. I appreciate that. The coupon code's working fine. I see a lot of people adamant that the coupon code is not working. The code is working. And in fact, Alvin Yakitori just used it, signed up with the coupon code Immoral21. If you're wondering what's going on, we're standing by for a White House press briefing with Jen Psaki. I believe we're just moments away. Yeah, just White House press briefing. If anyone knows when the Hannity Caitlyn Jenner live event will be, let me know, because I would be interested in covering that.
You're fine.
I think, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see Republicans have to balance being anti-trans, with really not liking Gavin Newsom. Hey, David, haven't seen you do any coverage on U.S. Solutions Summit coming up May 22nd. I've never heard of it. Huge names will be there. Cover it. U.S. Solutions Summit. Okay, I'll look into it. I don't know what it is. Let's see.
Yeah, it's like being hazed.
U.S. Solutions Summit. I don't recognize any of these names. Jimmy Dore's wife is a panelist. That's the one name I recognize. Yeah, I don't think that's for me. That's not looking like something that would be for me, but this is not necessarily that type of show. Wednesday, 6 Pacific will be the Hannity Caitlyn Jenner. Oh, did it say that? Oh, here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, here it is. Event will be broadcast at 6 Pacific. I would maybe stream that tomorrow night.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Okay, here we go.
It's been a while. I feel like somebody taller than me may have been in here more recently. Let's see. Well, happy, what day is today? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to all of you. We haven't been in here since last Tuesday. So just a couple of items for all of you at the top. I wanted to provide a brief update on the situation at our southern border. After 4 years of an immigration system rooted in destructive and chaotic policies,
Numbers
President
looking
Biden
better.
is taking the challenge head on and is building a fair, orderly, and humane immigration system. That's our objective. After coming into office, our administration immediately jumped into action to address the influx of migrants at the border, something that began during and was exacerbated by the Trump administration. And wanted to provide a couple of pieces of data you may have seen, but they've come out since the last time we had a briefing in here. At the end of March, there were more than 5,000 children in Customs and Border Protection Patrol stations. Today, that number is approximately 600. The amount of time children spend in CBP facilities is down by 75%, from 131 hours at the end of March to under 30 hours now. And just yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security announced that it will begin the process of reuniting a number of families who were separated by the policies of the previous administration. Clearly, we're not done. There's a lot of work ahead. Migration is a dynamic and evolving challenge, but the president has a plan and we're working on implementing it. Just a few more brief updates for you. As you know, Friday is Jobs Day. Here we are again. And to mark the occasion, I wanted to convey to all of you that we are going to be welcoming in Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to the briefing room on Friday.
That seems interesting. I would cover that.
And throughout this week, the president, the vice president, cabinet members, and other administration officials are fanning out across the country to make a forceful argument for the president's economic vision. The president, of course, began that push just yesterday in Virginia to talk about the jobs plan and the families plan, and it will continue today with the vice president, who will be in Milwaukee. As part of this, we'll also have Secretary Vilsack joining us in the briefing room tomorrow.
That I'm less
to talk
interested
about
in.
the vital child nutrition proposals in the American Families Plan. Finally, today, Jeff Zients and members of our COVID response team held their weekly meeting with our nation's governors. This week, over 29 million doses will go out across all of our channels, with 2/3 of those doses going to jurisdictions and 1/3 to federal channels. Jeff reiterated the federal government's commitments to help expand access to the vaccine, boost vaccine confidence, and help states with their unique needs in this vaccination effort. Zeke, why don't you kick us off?
Thanks, Jen. First, the president's COVID speech this afternoon. Do you have a preview of
That noise.
what he's expected to say? What should the American public expect to hear from him? And any new updates on the White House policies regarding mask wearing or testing here on campus now that the CDC's have adjusted their guidelines last week for fully vaccinated Americans?
Sure. Well, in terms of the president's remarks later this afternoon, I've been doing this long enough not to get too far ahead of him, but I know there's been some reporting out there. So you all and the American people can expect to hear an update from the president on our goals for vaccinating Americans by middle of this summer. Also, some more updates on our plans to make the vaccine more available and accessible across the country, and certainly some information about what people can expect once they get vaccinated.
Nice.
And in terms of your second question, we are working, our team here is working to determine how we will apply the CDC guidelines. That will constantly be updated, as you all know, to our efforts and the work we do here in the White House. Now, there weren't recommendations there wasn't guidance given on workplace use, right? So we're really talking about wearing a mask outside. I think when I leave the White House, I take my mask off. If I'm coming back into the White House, sometimes I put it back on when I'm taking the walk just to save some time. But in terms of the number of people who will be in the building and how we will apply, we're still working through that internally.
And Jen, there were some reports out of Iran over the weekend about potential deal for the release of some U.S. hostages there. I know the State Department has contested that report, but just sort of as a matter of principle, is the president open to a dollars for hostages deal, essentially ransom payments to free prisoners, or does it need to be a part of a broader package with the Iranians?
Well, our policy as a U.S. government has not changed on ransom, but I will tell you that discussions to bring home Americans who are held in Iran are something that is raised at the highest level through discussions. Obviously, those are indirect. Those are often indirect discussions, or we have our own channels, of course, and they are separate from the nuclear discussions in Vienna. But it is a commitment and a desire by this administration to certainly bring those hostages back. But reports over the weekend that an agreement had been reached to exchange prisoners was not true. And as I said, we always raise this issue, but there's no agreement at this time on the release of these 4 Americans.
One final one. More than 100 days into the administration, when you're up here at being in the administration, you announced the domestic violence extremism review. Do you have an update on sort of where that is, and what will the final work product of that review be?
Sure. Let me give you an update on that. So as you noted, Zeke, on we would be undergoing a domestic violent extremism review through the NSC, through the National Security Team, and we announced that during the president's first week. I can report that we completed our policy review in the 100 days we allotted for it. And right now, and this review, of course, tackled domestic terrorism from a range of angles and was comprised of input from various agencies across government. So the stage we're in now is that we are taking a look at what occurred during that review, lessons that we've learned, and ensuring that the policy responses that we've been discussing and developing are the right ones. That's going to take a little bit of time. Our ultimate goal from this review has always been to develop a strategy that will convey to the American people an overarching sense of how we'll be taking on the threat posed by domestic terrorism, something the president has talked about as one of the greatest threats we face. I anticipate an update on that, and the policy recommendations will be weeks, not months. But at this point, that's the stage of the process. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Just about Secretary Blinken's comments yesterday about Russia, the G7. He said that the United States wants a more stable and predictable relationship with Russia.
Secretary Blinken? Just to make sure. Okay. I think you said Secretary Clinton, or that's what I heard. But okay.
Secretary Blinken. And I was wondering, what does Russia really have to do to make that happen? Considering the Navalny situation, considering the Russian aggression at the Ukrainian border, how do you have a stable and predictable relationship?
Well, our relationship with Russia includes us voicing concerns where we have them, taking actions and putting consequences in place when actions warrant, as we have in the treatment of Alexei Navalny, as we did in reaction to the engagement or the hacking of our own election here in the United States. At the same time, we do think there are areas where we can continue to work together on. This is how historically national security relationships and diplomatic relationships have worked around the world. So I think what we are sending a message of is that we are not looking to escalate the relationship in terms of rhetoric or actions. Of course, we reserve the right to put in place consequences should their actions warrant, and we want to have a stable relationship where we will work together in areas where it is constructive, as there might be an opportunity as it relates to the Iran negotiations, as an example, and we will continue to voice concerns as we have them.
And one on sharing IP data, because the administration seems to be under increasing pressure to share IP data from doctors and even some global leaders. Dr. Fauci recently joined industry during a television interview to say that that is perhaps not the best way to get shots in arms. And I was just wondering what the official White House view is on that.
I wouldn't say that's an exact characterization of his comments or remarks that he made, but I will say that I would expect we'll have something to say about this once the WTO session gets underway. Obviously, Ambassador Tai would be making a recommendation to the president. That's not something that has happened at this point. And obviously, just for people to understand, for everyone to understand this process, because sometimes it's short-handed on television or in other places, what we're talking about is the United States position. It's a WTO process, and what ultimately happens here will not be up to the United States alone. This is a waiver that there would have to be agreement among WTO members on. I think what I saw Dr. Fauci's comments speak to as well, which is certainly our position, is that our objective is to save lives by producing as much supply as possible and getting shots in arms around the world in the most effective way. And we're determining what the right steps are to do exactly that.
Okay, thank you. And one last one on India. I know I've been asking you constantly about that, but it's obviously really important. Is the administration doing all it can to help India?
Well, let me give you an update, and I know we've provided a few of those, but I don't think we've done a substantive one here on what has happened or what the recent shipments have been. So 6 air shipments funded by USAID have departed the United States, 5 of which have already arrived in India. These flights include health supplies, oxygen supplies, N95 masks, rapid diagnostic tests, and medicine. And these are a lot of the components that the Indian government has expressed a vital need for. More flights are on the way, with total assistance expected to exceed $100 million. At the request of the government of India, USAID provided these urgently needed supplies to the Indian Red Cross to ensure they reach those those most in need as quickly as possible. In terms of oxygen support, which as you all know is a big component of what they need right now, we're talking about oxygen cylinders. So USAID delivered approximately 1,500 cylinders that will remain in India and can repeatedly be refilled at local supply centers with more plane loads to come. Oxygen concentrators, USAID has sent approximately 550 oxygen concentrators to obtain oxygen from ambient air. And USAID has also delivered a large-scale unit to support up to 20 patients each of an oxygen generation unit. We've also sent 2.5 million N95 masks, and we have an additional 12.5 million N95 masks available should that request come from the Indian government. And we've directed our own order of AstraZeneca manufacturing supplies to India, allowing India to make over 20 million doses. We've also provided 1 million rapid diagnostic tests. And this past weekend, USAID delivered 20,000 treatment courses of the antiviral drug remdesivir to help treat hospitalized patients. We're also working, one of the questions that's come up is about assistance and know-how, and CDC experts will work in close coordination with India's public health experts in the following areas: laboratory surveillance and epidemiology, I'm not a medical expert, emergency response and operations development, bioinformatics for genomic sequencing.
Some risky reading there.
So we are in close touch. That's a summary of what we've done just over the last several days, and we're working to meet the immediate needs they have now, even as we consider, when we have AstraZeneca doses available, what can happen there. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. You mentioned Secretary Yellen is coming on Friday. She said in remarks published today that it may be that, quote, interest rates will have to rise somewhat to make sure that our economy doesn't overheat. Does President Biden agree with it?
I think President Biden certainly agrees with his Treasury Secretary, but I will say that one of the reasons I think you're asking this question is about inflation concerns, and something that we watch closely here, obviously in the Treasury Department and in the White House in close coordination. And that is something where there's agreement. I looked at Secretary Yellen's remarks, or the ones that I saw. What she also conveyed is how vital it is to make these investments now, and how important it is for our economy, for investment in research and development, for leveling the playing field on the workforce to make exactly this investment. So, of course, officials who don't work here in the Federal Reserve and other places closely watch what needs to happen. I'm not going to speak on interest rates, but we also take inflationary risk incredibly seriously, and our economic experts have conveyed that they think this would be temporary and that the benefits far outweigh the concern.
I ask in part because, of course, the previous administration was routinely criticized for repeatedly sharing its views on what rates should do. Secretary Yellen is expressing her view on what will happen to rates. Do you think that this is an appropriate comment for a Treasury Secretary? Is she expressing an opinion on what the Fed should do when she says this?
Well, I would say of all people, Secretary Yellen certainly understands the independence and the role of the Federal Reserve, and I think she was simply answering a question and conveying how we balance decision-making here.
Can I pivot to one other thing? This week, Facebook is going to decide whether or not to reinstate Donald Trump's accounts on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, tomorrow.
If he is reinstated, is there any change in strategy that the White House would put in messaging? In other words, if he's on these platforms expressing his views, does that change what you do at all?
No. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Ahead of the president's speech today, is there any context or data you can share about the holdouts, about people who are still not getting vaccinated or signing up to get vaccinated, so we can understand if the problem is access to the vaccine or hesitancy because
not
it's
access.
unsafe?
Sure. Well, first let me say that what we've seen is that the more people who are vaccinated, and today he'll talk about the fact, but you are aware of this data, that 150 million people in this country now have had one dose, adults, I should say.
Someone should really ask, is the economy getting too good, and is that dangerous?
Confidence increases and the more people want to get vaccinated. That's not a surprise to us. That was what we anticipated and hoped for, given if your friend or your neighbor or somebody in your community is vaccinated, it gives you greater confidence about the efficacy of the vaccine, and maybe you see what the impact and the benefits are. We always expected, to be at this phase where once we reached that percentage approximately of people who were vaccinated, once we got to the point where it was no no longer an issue of access to supply, because we have more than enough supply for the American public, that it would become more and more difficult to meet people where they are and to reach them. And the biggest factor we've seen consistently we always focus on confidence, of course, but even with confidence, the biggest challenge is access. And access can mean a lot of things. It can mean concern about safety, though we've seen improvements in confidence levels. It can also mean, where do you get a vaccine, which is why we've invested so heavily, and the president will talk about this today, in programs like our pharmacy program, mobile vaccine units, mass vaccination sites, partnering with primary care physicians, local doctors, et cetera, but also why we made the announcement last week about paid leave, so that people can take a day off of work and they don't have to worry about losing income. We were seeing that as a factor. So we're constantly evaluating how to make this easier and more accessible, but we knew we'd be at this point where it would become more difficult, and we've been preparing for that.
Thank you. And I know you've seen the reports about the FDA approving the Pfizer vaccine for kids between the ages of 12 and 15.
Not yet.
Not yet, but is there anything you can tell us about how close they might be? And in the meantime, what the administration is doing to prepare so that those kids can get the shots right away?
Sure. Well, I can't get ahead of the FDA process, and certainly in part because we want to ensure people have confidence in the safety of vaccines when they make a decision. But I will say the president will talk a bit about what preparations we are making here to ensure that if a vaccine is approved, if the Pfizer vaccine is approved by the FDA or others in the future, that we make that accessible to additional younger populations.
And just one more on infrastructure.
Sure.
On Sunday, Ron Klain said that the White House had invited a group of Republican senators to come talk about infrastructure. Do you have any details about that meeting, including whether the president will attend?
Sure. So I think he was referring to the invitation the president made to Senator Capito that we announced last week, and a group of members she selects to come to the White House. Since Senate is on recess this week, we anticipate that meeting being next week, and it just hasn't been locked in yet on the day and who will be included in that group of attendees. But that's what he was referring to this weekend. But we don't have an update quite yet. As we have one, we'll share that with all of you.
Thanks, Jen.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Thanks, Jen. I just wanted to give you a chance to respond to the accusations that the American Federation of Teachers, the country's second largest teachers union, influenced the CDC's guidelines on reopening schools. You had Republican Senator Tom Cotton saying that this is evidence of a politicized public health agency answering at the beck and call of the teachers union. So how does the White House respond?
Well, I would say first that's false. Let's take a step back and talk about how the CDC works. The CDC, it's actually long-standing best practice for the CDC to engage with organizations and groups that are going to be impacted by guidance and recommendations issued by the agency. It doesn't mean they are taking everything they want or even a percentage of what they want, but it's important to understand the implementation components. They do so to ensure that recommendations are feasible and that they adequately address the safety and well-being of the individuals the guidance is aimed to protect. So the CDC engaged with around 50 stakeholders that are on the front lines in this pandemic and have requisite perspective for the guidance.
The president reiterated last week that July 4th is the target date for returning American life to something closer
The leaf
to normal.
blower's back.
Can you just define what exactly closer to normal is? What does that look like for the average American?
Well, first, the president will have more about his updated goals that we have as an administration by that July timeline that he'll talk about later this afternoon. What he's talked about is if you're giving incentives for people to be vaccinated, to understand what the benefits are of getting a shot or two shots. And one of the things he's talked about for some time since his primetime address before the joint address was people being able to gather in their backyard and have a barbecue. And obviously we follow the advice and guidelines of our health and medical experts, but if we increase...
Yeah, I think we've figured out where most of my callers call from. Clearly the lawn where those leaf blowers are going.
More things that they're used to. So the guidance last week, of course, said that if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask outside as long as you're not in a crowd. It also said if you're vaccinated, you can go a lot of places if you're wearing a mask and you can feel safe and comfortable. But he'll have more to say later this afternoon about the July timeline.
Okay, and one more question about, since we've been talking a lot about the refugee cap, something that's not entirely similar, but certainly related, the Afghan Special Immigrant Visa Program is facing this backlog of thousands and thousands of applicants, and of course, time is running out with the withdrawal beginning over the weekend. So can you just kind of summarize what exactly is the plan to address this backlog before all U.S. troops withdrawal?
You know, Kristen, it's a great question. It's an important program the president talked about, of course, has talked about in the past, and he is committed to. I would say the State Department would oversee the process for those visas, so I would point you to them.
Is there a plan, or is the plan still being drafted?
I don't have an update on the plan. I will just convey to you that
There's a planned
ensuring that people who have been partners to the United States, who have played such a vital role, who are eligible, can apply, and that we do that. Our embassy, of course, is remaining there and a presence there as well, but they would be the right agency to talk about processing and timeline and what that looks like.
Chance that like you guys might surge volunteers or staff to the embassy in Kabul to help?
It's a great question, but I would again point you to the State Department because the personnel would come from there. Go ahead.
On the refugee cap, since it is now going to be set at 62,500 this fiscal year, but President Biden says he doesn't think we'll actually get there. So where does he think we'll be by September 30th on the number of refugees?
Well, I would say first that, you know, what's important about this cap is one, that he wanted to, as he said in his statement yesterday, he wanted to eliminate any lingering doubt from any refugee across the world that the United States wasn't a country that would welcome refugees in to apply. Under the Biden-Harris administration, that's exactly who we want to be. But setting this cap, the objective is twofold. One is it helps send a message, that message to the world I just conveyed, but also it helps get the muscles working that have atrophied over the last several years when we were not welcoming in many refugees. So this is not just a federal government or U.S. government effort. There are so many organizations who play incredible roles in the United States and around the world. They have been understaffed, they've been under-resourced, and some of our success will depend on the ability to rebuild those systems. So yes, we will not, it is unlikely we will meet that 62,500 cap. It is actually, historically, rarely is that the caps met, I should say, but our objective is to get those muscles working again and send a clear message to the world.
And right now the number is still around 2,000. That was the latest we had gotten. So it just was, is there an update on what that number is right now?
I can see if there's an updated number. We have had people start coming in because we resumed the flights and because we overturned the policy that prevented refugees from applying from the Middle East and from Africa. We're constantly updating those numbers, but I'll see if there's a number to update you on.
And then on what Jeff Zients told the governors today on that call, that now the White House will redistribute vaccine allocations if a state doesn't order the full allocation they get that week. Can you just walk us through what changed in that policy since last month when the Michigan governor made a direct appeal to the president to get more vaccines for her state? She was told that couldn't happen at the time. So can you just walk us through the thinking on this policy change?
Sure. Well, first, we are always evaluating how to ensure we're getting more supply out to the country and out to the American people, more shots in arms. So even just a few weeks ago, we were in a different phase of our vaccination effort when supply was more constrained, and states, for the most part, were ordering at or near their full allocation. So what this announcement does, and what Jeff conveyed to the governors, is they can still order. It's up to them. They can order up to their full allocation based on population. They can also order less than their full allocation, and the doses that are not then given to that state will then go into kind of an overarching supply that could then be distributed to other states by population. Now, that same governor could the following week decide to order back to their maximum allocation. So it gives flexibility week by week, but it's really just an indication that we're in a different phase now than we were even a couple of weeks ago in terms of access to supply, and we want to ensure the doses are that we free up unused and unordered doses.
And last question, does the president still think that we will get to herd immunity in the U.S. this calendar year?
Well, the president's, we try to leave the predictions of when we will reach any definition by medical and health experts of that term. I will say that what the president will talk about today is what percentage of the population he hopes to be vaccinated by this summer. That obviously is a step forward, and what we can do from an operational standpoint from the White House, from Jeff Zients and our COVID team, is continue to operationalize getting these shots out into the country. But assessments of what that will mean, we will leave to our health and medical experts and apply our guidance accordingly. Go ahead, Karen.
Jen, to follow up on that question then from Caitlyn, the president was asked about that yesterday and said there's a debate about it. And on the call with the governors today, we obtained audio of it. Dr. Fauci seemed to downplay the notion of herd immunity. He called it an elusive concept of a number. So is that no longer the administration's goal? Does the White House not believe that's possible? Is this a deliberate shift away from that?
Again, it's a great question. I just don't want to answer, and I know we typically have a briefing with our health and medical team on Tuesdays, so you may have to wait for the next one, or the next time one of these doctors is on television to talk about the definition of it. But what our objective is of course to vaccinate as much of the population as quickly as we can. And the definition of what that will mean.
Yeah, this is all like, she's not going to say what herd immunity threshold would be and if and when it's here's how many vaccines we've got. We know there is hesitancy. We are working on that. We should get vaccinated because other countries that have done it have seen cases go almost down to statistically nothing.
Planning to phase out FEMA's mass vaccine sites in favor of focusing more on local level community health centers, the mobile centers that we've been talking about. Is it not effective to be using those mass vaccine sites anymore at this point in the campaign?
It's more effective in some places than others. So we announced a couple new mass vaccination sites last Thursday or Friday. There are some places where those mass vaccination sites, that's a mouthful for some reason, have not stayed open. And we evaluate, working in coordination with, of course, governors, local health and medical experts on what's working. We look at the data and see what's working. And there are some programs, like our pharmacy program, we initially launched it as a pilot with just a couple thousand pharmacies, right? Now it's over 40,000 or even greater than that, because that we've seen as very effective. We're partnering with local primary care physicians, in part because through our data, we see that people trust their local doctors, and that if it's easy, if you know you're going there to get your checkup, that is an easy place to do vaccinations. So there are certain parts of the country or certain communities where we still have mass vaccination sites. Well, we'll continue to open them, but we're constantly evaluating the best delivery mechanisms. And if something is not the most effective one, we will make changes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Does the administration want, or does it already have some plans being formulated to allow in foreign visitors this summer? In the same way the EU has pretty clearly said that's it, we're going to open the doors.
They have, but we, again, this is a case which I know is endlessly frustrating to people, and I will acknowledge that, where we will rely on the advice and the recommendations by our health and medical experts on what is...
I'm getting dangerously close to booking some tickets. I want to hear that Europe guidance soon.
Ahead of their process and what I anticipate in terms of any changes to travel restrictions.
Okay, thank you. And another one. Against the background of fighting which is going on now in Helmand in Afghanistan, after the US troops left, the Taliban and government forces started in. What is going to be the president's message if this specter of a Taliban takeover, which is obviously quite possible, happens after September? What's going to be his message to the Afghan people, including the many who probably don't support the Taliban? Is it going to be essentially, look, we're sorry, this is now your affair, we're out of here? I mean, is there going to be anything more than that he can say to them?
Well, I will say that when the president gave his speech on our decision to pull troops out of Afghanistan, he talked about the fact that we will continue, of course, to have an over-the-horizon presence, that we will continue to provide a range of humanitarian and other direct assistance. We will still have an embassy at this point in Afghanistan and a presence there at a diplomatic level. So what the announcement we made was about removing troops because it is in the best interest of our own national security. But he believes in diplomacy, believes that is the right path forward, and we will continue to support that and work with our international partners around the world to move forward.
Could he foresee a day when the US and the US Embassy and the United States deals with a Taliban government which is ruling Afghanistan?
Obviously, we watch closely and work closely with our partners in the region on what the future looks like, but I'm not going to get ahead of the status in Afghanistan. Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple questions. The White House has said the president wants to see progress on the American Jobs Plan by the end of this month and passage by the summer. Does that same time frame apply to the Families Plan that he released last week?
It's a great question. I mean, we obviously just introduced it. It's introduced it some period of time after we introduced the American Jobs Plan. I expect we'll have discussions with members of Congress about components of each. Different members have support or are more excited about different components of different parts of the plan, but I don't have a new timeline to set for the American Families Plan.
Well, with those negotiations, the meeting that you referenced coming up with Republican senators, you mentioned we'll talk infrastructure. Is he also going to talk the Families Plan with those senators when he holds that meeting?
Well, this particular meeting, I mean, there's dozens and dozens of engagements, phone calls, conversations that are happening on a regular basis, and a couple of, Secretary Pete Buttigieg is going to be briefing the Congressional Progressive Caucus this week on the package, as well as speaking at Leader Hoyer's committee chair weekly meeting. Our jobs cabinet continues to make one-on-one calls to members on both sides of the aisle, and some of them are also in districts this week, amplifying with members. Our legislative affairs team is doing briefings and having dozens of calls and engagements as well. This one particular meeting is related to a counterproposal that Senator Capito made, which is focused on the American Jobs Plan. So I would expect that to be a primary focus of the meeting, but there will be a range of meetings about the proposals, the American Families Plan as well, and different proposals that the president has put on the table.
At this point, when you think about getting these plans passed through Congress, are you envisioning both plans being combined into one bill? I mean, is that what the White House favors, or separately? What's the position right now?
We're open to a range of mechanisms for the president's ideas moving forward, but exactly what you're talking about is part of the discussion we're going to have with members of Congress, and there's an openness to smaller package, to different components moving forward together. We will leave those mechanics to leaders in Congress, but what we're discussing with them is where we can find agreements on many of the proposals and ideas the president has put forward.
Question on the Families Plan. During the campaign, President Biden proposed free tuition to four-year colleges and universities for students whose families earn $125,000 or less. His Families Plan released last week, as you know, only offers free tuition to students to attend two-year community colleges. Why did he not go through with that larger plan for free schooling at universities and college, and why was it limited to just community colleges?
Well, let me first say, while the American Families Plan has a historic investment in education and child care, free universal pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds across the country, which we know would have a huge impact. You're 58% more likely to graduate from high school if you go to preschool as opposed to daycare, and 2 years of community college. But this is not the totality of what the president hopes to do on education. This is a significant investment, a historic investment that he's proposing, but we're less than 107 days, I know we are, into the administration. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Does the President, White House Department of Education believe that public schools should require that students get vaccinated once folks under 16 is available to get vaccinated, whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, what have you, in the next couple of months?
I don't. It's not my understanding that we're putting in new requirements here from the federal government. I would expect the Department of Education will work with local schools and school districts on implementation and how to keep students and
the federal government's not going to require vaccination.
Would the White House come out in support of teachers unions who are already pretty public about the fact that they would want students under 16 to get vaccinated if they can get vaccinated and are eligible to get vaccinated?
I don't have any anticipation of requirements from the federal government at this point in time, but obviously if we'll look to our health and medical experts on any additional guidance to provide.
But even like passing support on social media, I know the president is very pro-union, reaches out to teachers union all the time, would at least invite them here to have conversations. So do you anticipate that President Biden would at least come out on the side of the unions for this specific issue?
I wouldn't. I would say that the president is going to abide by the advice and guidance of health and medical experts. And certainly we put out public health information and we've put out mitigation steps that schools can take in order to protect their school population. But I don't have anything else to predict for you at this point in time.
Just one more.
Sure.
I just want to give the White House opportunity to respond to the backlash Liz Cheney has been getting recently for coming out and saying that, obviously Biden won the election fair and square, and the Republicans are saying that that's not true. It's a bit of hogwash. And obviously taking my own.
The White House has no comment on Liz Cheney.
Is the White House have a response to the Republicans kind of ganging up on her or having a negative reaction to that?
Well, I would say first that, the Republican Party seems to be spending a lot of blood, sweat, and tears trying to figure out where they stand and what they stand for, and that's their prerogative. But our focus is on, and how we're spending our time is on defeating the pandemic, growing our economy, building on that for the long run. And it's no secret that the president doesn't see eye to eye on many policies with Congresswoman Cheney, but his view is that the American people elected him, and also many people representing them in Congress to solve problems for them. And he's going to continue to seek civility even when he disagrees. Let me just get around and then I'll come back to you if that's okay. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Okay, thanks. President Biden just recently nominated somebody to run the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Will be his first Senate-confirmed administrator in years. The agency has been criticized for years by traffic safety advocates for not doing anything, especially for truck safety, it's supposed to regulate. For example, since 2016,
this guy I love.
Proposed rule to limit the speed of trucks, which hasn't been acted on now in 5 years. Did the president discuss safety when he nominated her to take over the agency?
I'm not sure there's been a discussion with her directly. Obviously, if she was selected or nominated to serve in this particular role, but it's my understanding that the Department of
Sometimes I think how funny it would be if Joe Biden had like a completely normal policy plan, but then on something really specific like the speed of trucks, he was like, I believe trucks should be able to go 90 miles an hour on the highway. And it was like there was no rhyme or reason as to why that was something Biden cared about, and it was completely out of line. These are the things I think of to myself, like how would we react to that? So like, trucks should go 90. I don't know.
Been down to 1 of 5 board members for the last year. Why did he make that some of his earliest appointments or nominations?
Well, as you touch on, Jonathan, the Chemical Safety Board has a significant backlog of cases pending. Currently only has 1 board member out of 5. The president wanted to fill the vacancies or hopes to fill the vacancies quickly to make sure the board is able to fulfill its responsibilities.
Yeah. If Biden was like, I believe regular cars should have 6 wheels. What? All right. I don't know.
This question is a bunch of lawmakers, including one I cover, who would love to still see another round of stimulus checks, direct payments, even every month till the pandemic ends. Is that something that, it hasn't been in either of the president's new proposals, but that's something that...
Like, I guess what I'm saying is, if there was clearly a better candidate, if it was Biden versus Trump and they had all of their same positions and obviously Biden's better, but Biden had some completely wacky, like, all contact lenses should be bright red. Just so when someone's wearing contact lenses, would it change our general perception of the fact that Biden's better than Trump?
Kids under 6. Obviously, we're continuing to evaluate what their needs are to continue to get the pandemic under control, put people back to work, but we think that's also a proposal that will have a long-term benefit.
Do you think that there could be another round of direct payments in one of these bills?
We'll see what members of Congress propose, but those are not free. Go ahead in the back.
Jen, my first question is on ambassadorships. Many key picks have not been made for these roles, which serve as a representation of American diversity overseas. The United States has never had a lesbian woman or transgender person as an ambassador. Is the president missing an opportunity to name those firsts?
Well, given we haven't named many ambassadors quite yet, and we hope to soon, stay tuned, certainly the president looked to ensuring that the people representing him, not just in the United States, but around the world, represent the diversity of the country. And that certainly includes people who are LGBTQ, members of the transgender community. I don't have any predictions for you on that front, but I will say that he's soon, I'm sure, we'll be evaluating some recommended nominees coming from our personnel office and our national security team to fill some important posts. And he, of course, always looks at diversity.
Could you define soon a little bit further? What is that, like days, months, weeks?
Well, I think it depends on when the president makes some decisions, and he'll continue to consider a range of options for a lot of the positions that are out there and still remain vacant. I will say, having served with the State Department for a couple of years, there are incredible career service employees who are serving in these embassies around the world, who are representing the United States and our values. That continues to be the case, but of course we're eager to have ambassadors in place and confirmed to represent the president and the vice president in the United States. Go ahead.
Thank you. My second inquiry is on the president's speech to Congress last week. He told transgender youth he has their backs. And the president made these remarks in the context of states enacting laws against transgender youth, including a measure the Tennessee governor signed just today requiring parental notification on LGBTQ inclusive school curriculum. The president's inclusion of transgender people in his speech to Congress is significant in and of itself, but what will the president having their backs look like going forward?
Right.
Well, certainly the president has put in place, has signed executive orders. He's also used the power of the bully pulpit in his presidency to convey that transgender rights are human rights, and that is his belief and the view of his administration and how he expects policies to be implemented. That includes ensuring that transgender youth have the opportunity to play sports and to be treated equally in states across the country. So he will look to members of his administration to implement what his view is and what his value is as president.
Would you rule out legal action against these laws going forward as part of that?
I will leave that to the Department of Justice. Go ahead in the back.
Thank you, Jen, very much. A couple of questions and then another one from a colleague. Will President Biden give an update on sharing vaccines with the world today? And like, for example, is there any consideration to let go the unordered vaccine supply that will be redistributed here also to other countries? Is the consideration for that?
Well, our focus right now is on allowing the the AstraZeneca vaccine supply that we have expected over the next couple of months, going through a process to determine where we can provide those vaccines. So right now we have 0 doses available. We hope to have about 10 million in the coming weeks and about an additional 50 million in the coming months. And there's a process internally that's determining where those doses will go, but that's really where our focus is at this moment. But we will continue to evaluate ways to increase and expand global vaccine supply around the world beyond that.
So does the White House believe they could be doing more or faster to help closing the gap between vaccination in rich countries and the rest of the world? Or do you believe the $60 million doses of AstraZeneca are enough?
I don't think I said it was enough. I think I said that is where our focus is at this moment, but we will continue to look for ways to, our objective is to be a big contributing component of providing as much global supply in as cost-effective a manner as possible. And that's what we're evaluating now. So the 60 million is what we know we will have available in the coming months.
Jen, you just went through a list of help the administration is giving to India, and there is a great coordination to help India. Why we are not seeing the same response or engagement from this White House with Brazil? A lot of experts around the world are saying Brazil is living a humanitarian catastrophe, and there are more deaths in Brazil than in India. So why such a difference? And we know that Brazil also asks for oxygen, sedatives. Is the White House or is the administration considering sending additional help to Brazil?
Well, recognizing that the fight against COVID-19 is a global struggle, we are working to partner with the government of Brazil and the Pan American Health Organization to finalize access to $20 million worth of critical intubation medications needed to save Brazilian lives. These medications will come from the U.S. government, a facilitated purchase, and from the U.S. Strategic National Stockpile. This support is being offered to offset global supply shortages and will enable Brazil to receive sufficient medication to meet their immediate hospital needs. So that is an effort that's underway, has not yet been finalized, but we are working in partnership with the government of Brazil on that.
Brazil being the least to receive the AstraZeneca doses?
There are a range of requests we've had from around the world. We're evaluating those needs now, but I can't get ahead of that process.
Can I just ask one more from a colleague
ahead.
from Bristol, Segovia, MVS Radio from Mexico? He's saying that at least 20 people have been killed in protests that have been going on in Colombia for a week now. Nearly 1,000 cases of police brutality have been reported. Is the president being briefed about the situation in Colombia, and what is the White House response?
I'll have to ask our national security team on the latest engagement we've had with the Colombian government and others on that, and I will get back to you with a comment.
Quickly one, last one, sorry. Does the White House believe the former president, President Trump, should be allowed to return to Facebook?
No comment.
It's a decision being made by an independent oversight board. Beyond that, we don't have any further comment. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. I want to ask you a few about taxes real quick.
Fun.
Yeah, fun. Taxes goes for the last one in the back, right?
That's right. That's right.
On the SALT cap, some congressional Democrats are saying no SALT cap repeal, no deal with the president as it goes forward with his tax plan. Democrats up on the Hill. We know the position that the White House has had for several weeks now, so I'm wondering what's more likely at this point for the White House to move towards these congressional Democrats, or congressional Democrats, in this case, to back off their position eventually?
We don't know yet. This is democracy in action. This
negotiation.
is what's fun about this. We are having discussions. We are certainly aware of the members who have conveyed a strong view about the SALT deduction, and we'll have that discussion with them. We're eager to hear their proposals. Some of them have put some proposals forward. I think what we're factoring in here in the discussion is that I think, as you and I have talked about before, this is not a revenue raiser, so it would be additional cost. That's okay, but then you have to determine either how to pay for it, what other things are cut out. Certainly that would be a part of the discussion.
We heard from the president yesterday about the step up in basis. He sort of laid out the argument as to why that should be eliminated. For wealthy individuals upon inheritance, it essentially lowers the capital gains burden. The Tax Foundation gave an example on 100 million in gains. They say that the tax on that would be 61%. We know the White House's position that the wealthiest need to pay their fair share. I think anyone would agree that $100 million in gains is a lot of money. But I guess the question is whether or not a 61% tax bill is reasonable. Does the White House believe that's reasonable?
I'd have to talk to our number crunchers about the specific example you gave. I don't know what percentage of people have $100 million in capital gains. Maybe you know. That sounds like quite a lot to me. But the fundamental value here the president is conveying is that his proposals are about making a historic investment in education, in childcare. That's going to make us more competitive, to compete with China, to bring more women back into the workforce. He's proposed a way to pay for it that's going to impact, as it relates to capital gains, 0.3% of the population. And the example you gave, I don't even know, that's probably 0.00, I don't know what percentage of the population. That's his proposal. There are other proposals that can be put forward, but I have to look at the specific statistics with our team to give an evaluation on that.
And lastly, in the American Families Plan, it calls for financial banks and financial institutions.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me what I'm planning to do with my gains. If the capital, I mean, it's just, I'm not planning. I don't even pay attention because I'm not planning on selling anything. I just am holding.
And that maybe that's the federal government having too big of an insight into what's going into your bank account and what's coming out of your bank account, along with that it would just make filing your taxes a whole lot tougher.
It's already a pain.
It's already a pain. But is that too much for the federal government to know what's coming in and what's coming out of your bank account?
So what this proposal is, as you know, but just to explain to others, is cracking down more on ensuring people are paying the taxes they should be paying on their income at the rates they should be paying them at. There's a number of implementation mechanisms for that, and obviously the IRS can outline that more specifically than I can. But again, this is a proposal about how to pay for historic investments in childcare and education. If people have alternative proposals that don't raise taxes on people making less than $400,000 a year that will help pay for this, we're quite open to them.
Mitch McConnell put forth, or basically said that Republicans would be willing to go forward with the $600 billion infrastructure plan. No, do not touch the corporate tax structure that is currently in place. The White House's response to that is what?
Well, I think there's a counter proposal that we're going to have a discussion about with Senator Capito next week. There's lots of discussions at a staff level. I think the question there is he suggesting we don't need to pay for the proposal? It sounds like it, unless there's an alternative.
Fees, essentially, people who use
Which again, as we've talked about, user fees would put the burden on the backs of the American people. Would make it so that people driving a car, it depends on what the user fees are, right? If it's basically a tax for the number of miles you drive, as an example, or other user fees, that means people making $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 a year are going to have to pay for these proposals. We have a difference of view on the pay-fors. Our view is that the 1% of people who are making over $400,000 a year can afford to pay a little bit more, but we can have a discussion about that. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Many questions and some answers there. Another press briefing in the books. Nug Wrangler says Ronald Reagan was stirring up drama with me and Sam Cedar. Have I looked at it? No, but if someone sends it to me, I would check it out. As many of you know, I don't watch any political shows, so I never know what's going on. But if someone can email me whatever that's in reference to, info@davidpakman.com, I will check it out. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be playing in a chess tournament. The Botez sisters are organizing a bullet streamer chess tournament. I will be playing in it. That's tomorrow at 4 p.m. I will stream my participation. Probably will go live about 15 minutes before that. And then I will think about streaming the Sean Hannity, Caitlyn Jenner event tomorrow night, although I'm worried that there may be copyright issues, so I'm going to investigate that. So potentially 2 streams tomorrow, potentially. All right, I'll see everybody soon.